Each team has 20 minutes to present its case to the judges. I will show a board for 10, 5, last 2 minutes, and last 30 seconds of the presentation. During the last 10 seconds of the speech, I will indicate my name of my two hands, the number of remaining seconds. A team not having ended its presentation after 20 minutes will be stopped to move on the period of question. A period of question of a maximum of 5 minutes is assigned to the jury at the end of the presentation. It's one question is obligatory. Please note that you cannot reveal the name of the source or your university as it may be disqualified. I would like to ask the public to turn off the ringing of their cell phone. I will now invite the judges to introduce themselves.
We'll just start by taking a quick picture. Just for a moment. Thank you. There we go. So my name is Dan Huber. I'm the Regional Director of the IG Wealth Management Company in the West Island region. I've been with the company for 18 years. Been a financial planner since 2005.
My name is Robert Dessière from Quebec City as an IG Wealth Management. In the business for the last 41 years and financial planner since '97.
My name is Kevin Hamel. I'm Regional Director in Quebec 5 fois. I'm with the company since 2008.
Right?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, Canadians are aging, and with increasing age comes and declining financial literacy skills. The need and demand for a strong and effective financial planning during your working years is extremely important, so that you are able to lead a life of comfort in your retirement years. Today, I, Falah, with my colleagues Sai and Charlie, will be presenting a solution to Mr. Bosse and his partner, Ms. Kim, and how they can evaluate their current financial situation and be able to come up with strong and effective planning, as we suggest, if they accept the suggestions, to be able to plan for their retirement and be able to meet their future goals. So, to start with, we'll give you a brief agenda of what we're going to cover today. We're going to mention our mandate, which was given to us by you, Mr. Bosse, and your partner, Ms. Ken. We'll give you a brief overview of the client profile as well as their goals in this process. And then we'll mention our strategy regarding the couple's, which is you, your retirement, as well as any changes in investment strategy, any changes in insurance, and finally legacy. And then we conclude with the key recommendations and we open the floor to questions. To start with, what's our mandate? Our mandate is to develop a comprehensive financial plan for Mr. Bosse, who has worked as a mechanic for the past 30 years, and for his partner, Mr. Kim, who's worked in the Canadian federal government for the past 27 years, and to be able to come up with a very solid, effective strategy in terms of how they can plan to retire in the next 5 years after having led a life of hard work. So, now we, Mr. Bosse and Ms. Kim, although this is for the brief audience, we like to read a couple of facts, although it doesn't really make sense because we're telling you what a couple of your facts. So Mr. Bosse has been a mechanic, as I earlier mentioned, 30 years in the business, and has an total income level, or an annual income level of around $100,000. Ms. Kim, on the other hand, is a federal officer in the Canadian government. She has 27 years of service and a salary of $55,000. So, what are the three main client goals that we decided to keep an eye on during our presentation? Our first main goal is to be able to, that you, Mr. Bosse, and your wife and your partner, Ms. Kim, are able to maintain a stable standard of life in your retirement, which can only be reached if you're able to implement effectively the retirement planning that we are suggesting today, so that you're eventually able to lead a comfortable life after the next 5 years. You'll also be in the need to be able to maintain a viable financial future that can only come with cutting discretionary expenses, as well as selling your assets that you do not necessarily need. That you are able to maintain, live within your means, and to be able to, over the next couple of years. And finally, and very importantly for a family like yours, is to be able to leave a legacy We know that your son, Brandon, who's 21 years old, and although he's financially independent, he's also a young father, and we understand that you feel the need for an affection to be able to support your grandchild, the 1-year Philip, who has a potential health problem that might require him a certain amount of financial help in the future, as well as your other son, Thomas, who although is 19 years old, is currently enrolled in CGEP, and thus has a need for potentially could be enrolled in university that could lead to certain expenses. So our strategy takes into consideration these 5 main parts. Our first is to take into account your current financial status, where you currently are, your current income levels, both of your partners. We will then suggest our tax planning initiatives and how you're able to time your major sale and purchase of your assets so that you're able to gain the maximum benefit of your of the sale from the proceeds of your net assets, which we'll delve into later. We are able to giving main recommendations involving the insurance for both partners, as well as the retirement, which is the main goal today, and eventually, in case of death, the legacy that we'll be considering. So now, to cover retirement planning, I will be handing it over to Syed.
Right. Thank you, fella. So, as mentioned earlier, so the retirement planning. So during your retirement, you'll be pulling out money from your investment vehicles, and so far we've noticed that you've contributed to a non-registered account, a TFSA account, and an RSP account. The TFSA account, which is very beneficial because the withdrawals you'll be making in the future will not be taxed. In addition, the wealth within the fund will compound as it won't get taxed. As far as the RSP goes, it's very popular, and the contributions are tax deductible, so which is quite beneficial during your working years. And on top of that, when you withdraw from your funds, you'll be taxed at the prevailing marginal rate. So these are one source of income. You'll also be receiving a government source of income, which are the OAS and QPP. The OAS would roughly be around $600 per month, and you'll receive it starting from age 65. And in terms of your QPP, you'll be receiving roughly $1,200 per month, assuming that you are part of the maximum. And that's pretty much it in terms of the source of income you'll be receiving during your retirement. Now, in terms of a liquidation strategy, we believe that it would be optimal to start drawing funds from your non-registered, and then following that with your RSP withdrawals, and then tax-free savings account. And our motivation behind that is that we want to defer tax as far away as possible in order to allow the wealth to compound over time. That's pretty much it. And we, as we've discussed in our previous meeting, we noticed, you have told us that you wanted to purchase the down payment on houses for both your sons. And we believe that it would be beneficial to pay it off your TFSA because all the money has been going into, because when you withdraw from your TFSA, you won't get taxed, and we believe it would be the more optimal solution in terms of paying off the down payment for your sons. And now in terms of your garage, so you've had a situation where your wife's brother wanted to become a partner in it. And then so you have asked us, how does incorporation work? So the benefit of incorporation is, since it's a limited liability and you're sharing responsibility in future years, therefore you guys aren't personally liable, which is a good thing because worst comes to worst, it won't affect you as a person. However, a consequence of incorporating is that you have to share the decision-making process. And weighing the cost benefits, we've determined that we should not incorporate given the future costs and the retirement goals. And now, upon looking at your portfolios, we started to look at what's the current asset allocation. And we've noticed, Mr. Bose, you have 50% in fixed income, 40% in growth, 10% in cash, which is quite representative of a conservative profile. However, we would suggest you to go 70% in fixed income, 25% growth, 5% in cash. That's simply because now that you're in your 50s, your early 50s, and you're planning on retiring at age of 55, we want to go a little more conservative because the money shouldn't be as risky. Like, your investment shouldn't be as risky as you were in your young days. Therefore, going with a higher allocation into fixed income would be more strategic entering retirement. As for Mrs. Kim, we've noticed that you are less risk averse than your partner. However, your current portfolio seems to be 40% in growth, 50% fixed income, and 10% in cash. We would like to suggest a 50% in fixed income, 45% in growth, and 5% in cash, simply because you want to retire at the same time as your partner, and since it's in the upcoming years, we believe that you should also play slightly more conservative than your current portfolio. And now I'll pass it off to Charlie for insurance planning.
So insurance is a very important part of retirement planning because our lives are what generates income. If we don't protect our lives, then in the later years of our insurance, we won't have any income if we don't have any insurance. So right now, I'm going to go over each of Mrs. Kim and Mr. Bosse's each insurances. So Mr. Bosse, right now, you work as a mechanic, and for 30 years, you haven't told me that you haven't gotten any accidents yet, so I congratulate you on that. However, as a mechanic, you run more risks of injuring yourself compared to your wife, Mrs. Kim, who works as a federal officer. And currently, right now, you do not have any life or disability insurance currently. And then for you, Mrs. Kim, right now you have a government job, as I said before, a pension plan, group insurance, and also disability insurance, which covers up to 60% of your salary if you do become disabled. So my recommendations for you, Mr. Bosse, since you do run a more riskier job as a mechanic, is that first you should get basic disability insurance for 5 years until you decide to sell your garage. Because you want to sell your garage in 5 years, we recommend this because of the risk of working in the garage. And even though it is just for 5 years, we believe that this disability insurance will give you the sound of mind of working in there. And if worse comes to worse, if you do die, which we don't hope you do, your return on this insurance will be higher because you'll be just paying premiums for 5 years and then you will get your coverage back. And then, secondly, we also recommend for you universal life coverage. Since you're retiring in your early 50s, we recommend this because you still have your life expectancy will be into your 80s. And how universal life coverage works is that you pay a premium, and part of this premium you go to the insurance company, and part of it will also go into an investment vehicle, such as a GIC, a index fund, or a fixed income. So what this does is that it's going to protect your life, and you will also get investment at the very end. And what type of universal life insurance? We will recommend you enhanced coverage. What this is at the very end, if you die, you will get your premiums and also your coverage plan back. And then for you, Mrs. Kim, we recommend that you maintain your current statuses of insurance, of disability insurance, your pension plan, and life insurance with your employer. Next, I will move on to estate planning, which links with insurance. So currently, right now, let's talk about your civil status. So right now, you're living together for 25 years. However, I do notice that you are not married. So and you do want to get married, which this is a decision we do support. We want you to marry as soon as possible. However, given your future expenses of gifts and you want to maintain your current lifestyle of living, we recommend you keep your wedding expenses minimal so you can support your future expenses. What a wedding does is it's official, it's recognized in all countries, and in addition, married couples can contribute to their spouse's RRSP, and because you're married, if you do not create a will, the inheritance money will go to your sons or your spouses. Next, for a will. We notice that you do not currently have a will, And we believe that this is a will is of utmost importance for you, because you, upon death, if your spouse dies, you want to give all your things to the other spouse, and if both of you die, which is a special case, you want to accord, as you can see up here, 40% to one of your sons, 40% to the other to your other son, 10% to your grandson Philip, and 10% will also be towards your funeral expenses. So what we want to do is we want to create a will that will be notarized with notary in Quebec. What this does is that the notary ensures that you made this will in clear mind. If you do not have this, you could run into future problems ahead, meaning that if Mrs. Kim's brother didn't like you not going to visit them, they could contest the will, and then this will have to be probated by a judge, which would cost more time for you, and for your beneficiaries to receive this. So yeah, as I said, the will should show the detailed percentage of inheritance for each child and grandchild. So in the will, so our second point is that we want to talk directly to insurers to nominate the beneficiaries of insurance policies. So we want to talk to them directly, because if we make a change in the will, to see who will get the benefits of the insurance policy, we have to give this will every time to the insurance policy, to the insurers. So by talking to the insurers directly, they'll know who to give the money to directly. And added advantage of this is that if you talk to the insurers directly, the benefits of the insurance will go directly to the beneficiaries and will not go to the estate. If it goes to the estate, then there's a chance that the creditors, like if you have debt later on, the creditors can seize this debt before it goes to the beneficiaries. And then finally, we suggest also that you should have a hand power of attorney to a trusted individual in case of a death or incapacity. It just gives you more of a sound of a mind that you give your estate to someone trusted, and that you can give to them that they'll do the right things for you. Next. Oh, and for the estate, at the very end, we plan that we will leave your estate to your family an estimated value of $3.7 to $4 million.
So
I'll
now,
pass it on to my partner.
right. So, Mr. Bosse and Ms. Kim, after having said to our presentation, we try to walk you through our comprehensive strategy that we have come up with for the past couple of weeks, is to usually consist of three major goals that we are mentioning over here. So our first goal is that you liquidate assets within your next 5 years to be able to meet your planned retirement. So as we know that Mr. Bosse retires within the next 5 years, that will eventually lead to a sale of the garage, which is eventually why we decided suggest you not to incorporate. We also suggest you to sell your chalet and your boat and register the amount in your TFSA so that you're able to meet the down payment on your children's first house purchase, which I believe is a very important family decision and a very important step in your life. Our second main goal is to be able for you to change your portfolio to reflect your future financial goals and life realities. We understand that Ms. Kim is less risk averse and and really enjoys following her equities portfolio, but we do know that if you do plan to retire in the next 5 years, then to be able to maintain your a stable financial income over the next couple of decades until your life expectancy, you need to be able to adopt a more conservative approach. That applies to while Mr. Boss, you have maintained your risk profile as conservative for a long while. Ms. Kim, you need to change your portfolio to reflect these changes. And finally, is to be able to implement the estate planning actions, including the civil status suggestion that we have, as well as the formation of a notarized will, so that you're able to ensure a sustainable legacy for your family. We know that you're having a very strong, sustainable financial future for your kids is very important for you. That includes both Thomas and Brendan, as well as your new one-year-old grandchild, Philip, which is why we believe that it's very important that you accept our suggestions and are able to lead the financial future that you hope With that, we conclude and we open the floor for questions. You're welcome to ask us any question that you have.
I have one question. What is the impact if the brother-in-law of Mr. Bossé joined in business?
Right. We understand that why he's interested in it. We need to take into account that Mr. Bossé only has a planned goal of 5 years, and although he's open to the idea of working part-time for 5 years following retirement, following retirement age, currently they are looking into the action of. We decided to consider that within the next 5 years, if Mr. Bossé decides to go on with the sale of his assets, which includes both his garage, the main asset that he currently has, we need to be able to, incorporation would not be a good idea. In terms of like other benefits and drawbacks, benefits, as we mentioned earlier, include the idea of shared decision making. We need to take into consideration the potential relationship that has existed between Mr. Bossé and his brother-in-law, which is something that Mr. Bossé does not necessarily trust. And in terms of the drawback, we also know that although it will lead to this idea that although Mr. Bossé might get off on the business in the next 5 years, he will be able, the garage can continue to function without his presence, and he will be able to collect his profits, but that comes at the expense of a higher tax rate as well as a shared decision-making responsibility, and continued involvement in the business, which is not necessarily something that Mr. Bossé would like to consider at this point.
As an advisement, maybe I follow my wife what she said, but if I want to bring my brother-in-law in business, do you have an advice for me?
Sorry? Can you
Do you have an advice for me if I bring my brother-in-law in the business? Maybe I decide to go on that way. You have an advice for me to protect ourselves?
I think a very solid idea, if you're deciding to go into, you're deciding to incorporate, is to come up with a shareholder agreement to be able to decide that what are the percentage ownership and how are your process, such as, for example, profit sharing mechanism as well as dividend sharing in case, and what are the clauses that you could include in terms of like sale of business or in terms of how to be able to make decisions in case of dispute and or seek arbitration or judicial. So these are some of the things that you could put in your shareholder agreement.
Last question. I love Kim very well, but you said that I should marry her as soon as possible.
Right.
Do you have another advice for us if we get married only 1 year from now to protect ourselves?
Which one would you like to take that?
Protect.
Can you repeat the question?
If we decide to get married 1 year from now, because you said we should marry as soon as possible, but because the will, all the thing. Do we have another maybe contract that we can do to protect ourselves between now and?
So if you do not decide to marry right now, you can also opt in for a civil union. A civil union provides all the benefits of marriage as well, and it's a bit more simpler than a marriage.
Okay.
Anything regarding the legacy is very important for us, and we want to make sure that we take care of our kids and grandchild that's could be disabled. Do you have any suggestions on that? What we could do for that to make sure that is there any benefits of doing different things to them that could be beneficial for them?
Can you repeat that? So for your children or your grandchild? Yeah,
so for grandchild, is there anything that we could put in place, programs that exist for them that we could allow them to benefit better in terms of the money we have right now? And could we open certain plans?
So another option for insurance is a annuity insurance. And this is a two-step process. What you do first is you buy life insurance. You buy a life annuity with zero guarantee, which means that this annuity will expire when you die, but you get income. So you give an insurer a lump sum, and you get money every year. So that's the first step. The second step will be life insurance, and the amount of coverage of this life insurance will be equal to the amount of the annuity. So when you die, you will get a lump sum, and at the same time, you're going to get money every year. So what we envision is that with this with the annuity you get every year, you can give this to your grandson Philip as well, and upon your death, you can also transfer this to your grandson.
just to add on that, I also think that, for example, you could create a savings account and be ensured that the only major beneficiary is when your grandchild Phillips turns 18 years old, and that neither of his parents do have access to the account and can utilize that fund until he turns 18 years old. You can also, for example, if you're concerned about the educational expenses of your grandchild when he turns 18, you could create an RESP that would also be turning on when he could effectively utilize when he turns 18.